We are live, and I was in the midst of doing a finger countdown, and I kind
Hiya,
of
folks.
fucked that up. I am Eric Tenkar. With me is Old Man Grognard, Smokestack Jones, Glenn Halstrom. Glenn,
Oh,
you,
wait. Google Chrome just told me that Dungeons, Dragons, and Discourse is starting.
uh oh,
Okay. Let me.
you better get on. Oh, wait a second, you're already there. Wait
Yeah.
a second. God damn it!
This
I've been
stupid
told
computer.
I've been told I have too many email addresses from somebody who only
Really?
used my email addresses to complain to me. And Glenn, you have too many handles, but that's okay.
I've got two handles. I've got
Yeah.
two. I've had two handles and I have two email addresses.
Oh, I got way too many email addresses. I will admit to that one. But everybody knows me as Tenkar, and if you knew me as a cop in the South Bronx in the late '90s, early aughts, it was Flounder or Team Flounder if you were trying to raise my car up. So,
If
but
anybody
nobody's
comes
called.
up, if anybody comes up to me and says, "I know you as Basil Fawlty," I'm just gonna go, "Wow, that was like the mid '80s." On message boards, not even
Oh
the
my God!
internet. Yeah.
Wait, now you see my initial screen name, and this is just because I really enjoyed the character from the. This is embarrassing. It's TSR fiction, which is where and it wasn't Drizzt or Wolfgar or anything like
Uh-huh.
that. It was Rickus from the Dark Sun books, and it was Rickus because I could do Rickus Rick from Eric
Uh-huh.
as my email address, and I was like Rickus Rick on like every damn freaking board I was part of. And then I realized that I guess Tenkar worked out better, and then Tenkar stuck. Can you imagine if Rickus Rick stuck? To be just calling me, it like stuttering.
I used to have a board. Uh, I used to be on this message board where they actually gave me a room, my own sub board.
Right?
And I don't even know what we were talking about, but it was Faulty Towers because my handle was Basil Faulty. And
Okay.
that's back in the day when you used to do the ASCII artwork and everything.
Oh my God, yes.
And so I had a little ASCII artwork at the beginning that I would change like every week or month, where it's flowery twats, or how they change the sign
Yeah.
in the episode. I do that on mine every once in a while.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
That would have been too much effort for me. I remember trying that ASCII artwork on my
Uh
Commodore
huh.
64, which,
Uh
by the
huh.
way, they are selling a retro Commodore 64 on Amazon with a lot of
Really?
games, yeah, built into it. And I know you can get ROMs, and there are some fantasy RPGs that I played back in the day on my Commodore 64. So, looking over my shoulder.
My friend didn't have a 64. He had a VIC 20
Oh, well, you see, 64 could run
with
just a little bit.
with
With tape drive.
with the tape drive. Yes, for games.
Technically, I had a 64C, so it had like a modern looking keyboard as opposed to the clunker clunker. But I actually ordered it, and I think it arrives tomorrow. And Rach has a day of yoga training from 11 to 7, so I
Uh-huh.
will be setting this up and playing with it out of sight, out of mind, and then I'll admit that I kind of birthday presented myself. So we shall see. Oh, so somebody,
I just sent
how
out.
would
I My friend Bruce. He just got my first. I sent out my first Christmas present today because I ordered it online. So
oh, okay? I still owe you
there's a couple of
a
decks of
small
cards.
gift. I got to get to the mail, but I got to do that before
Oh yeah.
Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving,
Oh
the
yeah.
mail gets insane.
Oh, I want to show everybody my little friend here. To hell with
Say
an
hello
elf
to
on the
me, little
shelf.
friend.
I don't need an elf on the shelf. I got a Spidey on the shelf.
Uh, Show me where the old man Grognar touched you on the doll.
show you. Yeah, show me where Doc Ock touched you. This guy is one of my pride and joys. See, I little gorilla tape around there, around the midriff there to keep them together because my grandkids broke them in half. But this is the 18-inch Spider-Man 2 figure with 64 points of articulation, and this is my primary. When I draw, this is my primary artist model right here. That's why I love this thing. I bought it back in the day. It was like $20 at Walmart, and best investment, as long as they don't let the kids have it. So
there you go. Yeah,
well,
Bruce, I had the 64. I got it in 85. I remember I cashed out my savings account to buy it because it was school related. I needed it for college. That's the ticket. And of course, I played all the Gold Box games. The worst one was the one that masqueraded as a Gold Box game, but wasn't. Was it Hillsfar? Some fucking thing with like bullshit kind of video gamey jousting and crap. I don't know. I quickly uninstalled. Well, I didn't install it. I quickly stopped ever using it. But yeah, no.
Well,
I'm looking forward.
Me and my friend and a couple other friends, we used to play Colonial Conquest on his Vic. I think he did upgrade to a 64 eventually. But he played Colonial Conquest, which is basically kind of a PC version of Risk.
Okay.
Where we each take a country, but we used to like it where like we'd have like 4 guys and each take a country, and the computer would take the other countries.
Right.
And it's always like when the computer took its turn. I loved it because every time the computer took its turn, it'd come back and say, "Oh, look what he did! Man, he just invaded China! Wow!" Computer invades China.
Yeah, because that way you're not really the one pissing off your friend. You're kind of like, it wasn't me. The computer did it. I got you. I mean, all my friends had a Commodore 64, so it was a great way. You learned real quickly to have the right friends that could copy games, and then you learned that the investment in a hole puncher for your floppy disk was worth its weight in floppy disks, because all of a sudden it's like, I have a double-sided disk just by cutting a notch in this thing, because that's really all double-sided disc were, because they were all double-sided. Really, you just paid for the notch.
See, I didn't get my computer. It was my girlfriend's computer, but the first computer I had was a Mac Plus, and I had the small hard floppy disks.
Okay. See, my first computer kind of sort of was the Coleco Adam with the daisy wheel printer that whacked away, and it lasted like, I don't know, I think 3 years before it literally burned out.
Both Sylvia and I both had our game that we would obsess over. Mine was Dark Castle and Beyond Dark Castle. Remember that? And hers was Shanghai, which was basically, Mahjong.
Yes, I remember playing a lot of Shanghai and Mahjong. Not so much on the 64. I think that was my early PCs. It was like, oh, this is a great, relaxing solo game when I should be doing like my, I don't know, term papers in college. Instead,
we also had a computer version of Meal Borns. Remember that game? Meal Borns. That's the French card game where you're each in a car and you try and rack up 1,000 miles, and you can like put flats on people and do other stuff to other people. It's a card game. It's still being sold, and they did a computer version of it, and she was convinced that computer cheated. She was convinced that it cheated.
You know what? Who knows how they programmed it? Maybe it did. Maybe it was programmed to cheat. By the way, Bruce, I am doing turkey and ham. Ordered from the pub. Put in an order for turkey and ham for Thanksgiving. So if I had a choice between turkey and ham, I would go for a nice spiral ham any day. But
Well,
everybody else is
if they can't do the ham, I'll show up.
okay. Yeah, I got my own ham. We've got the Glen ham. Hills Far really, really sucked. Everything else was good. All the other
I have a
Gobox
fe-
games were great, but that one, oh, painful. And I hated the copy protection. I had the originals. I didn't want to have to flip through the rule book and find a word or match up the wheel. Oh my god, what a pain in the ass. Thinking back to that. Zork, yes. Ultima, the original Ultimas. I never finished an Ultima, but I had a lot of fun playing them and not knowing what I was doing. I had friends that could finish Ultima and they knew all the secrets and tricks. And for me, Ultima was a hex crawl with no end and literally no beginning because I could never figure out what I was doing.
well, I did play my share of Infocom games. I had 3 of them.
Okay.
I played Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yes.
The Leather Goddesses of Phobos,
Yep.
and I can't remember the one that was kind of a horror one that was kind of Cthulhu-esque. I can't remember the name of it, The Crawling Eye or something like that. But it was very Cthulhu-esque.
Yeah. Playing
I got a
like
kick.
that. Go ahead.
I got a kick out of Leather Goddesses because the way they figured out if it was a male or female playing is you're in a bar and you have to go to the bathroom. You have to pick either the men's room or the ladies' room. And that told the computer if
Ah.
it was a male or a female playing.
Interesting way to do it. It might not
Yeah.
work so well, in all circumstances, but certainly an interesting way to do it.
I swear to God, that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, boy, what you have to do to get a Babel fish in your ear is incredible. It was incredibly hard.
And that's the thing about those games. Like I remember, like Zork was annoying, but like Zork 3 or Zork 4 was supposed to be partially graphical, and I was all
Mm-hmm.
excited, and I don't remember it ever getting a copy of it. And I'll be honest with you, I bought. Dare I say this? I bought most of my Commodore 64 games, which meant that I had no money available, generally speaking. So the ones I would get copied were things like Ultima, which I could never figure out how to play anyway, the early Ultimas. And then, the later Ultimas that came on like 17 discs I had to install on my early PC. It was
Oh,
like,
I remember
well,
those.
this probably isn't even going to be worth the experience.
Disc swapping in the middle of a game. Yes.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, that's how
Put
it's
in
done.
disc number. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was crazy. Anyway.
But
Oh, what were we going to chat?
I'm just catching up on the Wizard's Crown. Wait, Wizard's Crown. Oh God, was that from like what's the company called? Cinema something or other.
Cinemaware. Cinemaware.
Cinemaware. I think Wizard's Crown was them. Oh my God, now I'm really flashing back. Holy crap, Mule. Yes, Mule is a classic. Wait, David, you started programming in ICL in 1904? Listen, I did computer programming in the early 80s in high school. I took basic computer programming, and then I took Pascal. And let me just say, I learned absolutely fucking nothing, and I'm proud of it because I I did one program that allowed me to generate characters for AD&D, and then I mean, literally lost the disc, and then I couldn't bother trying to figure out how to do it again. So
Another game I liked on there was Deja Vu. It was like a first person kind of, it was text, but it had graphics and stuff. And
okay,
basically it was a film noir game. You wake up, you don't know who you are. You wake up in a hotel room and you got to figure out what's going on.
all right. So Bruce, correct me. Wizard's Crown and Eternal Dagger were from SSI. All right,
Ew.
Eternal Dagger. Okay, Bruce. Now I'm going to ask you a question and then we'll probably get on to the whatever our main topic's going to be. Do you remember an SSI RPG that came with like a paper envelope with like handouts for the player? So when you find a map, you actually pull the map out of this thing. I can't remember the damn name of the game. It was
Bard's
always
Tale?
no, it wasn't Bard's Tale. It was from SSI, and when it had like a demon on the cover, I think. But whenever you chained, it played a lot like D&D. It was really good. But whenever you had to change disc because of travel, my game would crash first 4 times out of 5, and then 20 times out of 20. And only game that would do that to me. But if I could ever get a ROM of that and play it on the emulator I'm getting, oh man, I'd be happy as a pig in shite. So if any of you know which game that is, so I can, I can't remember it, but name of it, I remember it frustrated the shit out of me because it kept on crashing. No game in my gaming career, computer or video games, ever enticed me that much. Probably because it crashed all the time, and I never got the chance to. Maybe I remember more about it that I thought was gonna happen that never happened because it kept on crashing. So uh, it was Commodore 64, and it was probably late 90s. Maybe I didn't find it until like early 90s. Sorry, late 80s, possibly early 90s. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if it was before SSI had the gold box or after, but it was
I had a friend back.
fucking awesome.
I had a friend
So,
back in San Jose who got a job at SSI playtesting the gold box games.
see now that back in the as much as I wanted to work for TSR back in the day, I would have killed for a job playtesting computer games. What? I get to play computer games for 12, 14 hours a day? Do I get to eat and shit too? I do? All right, I'm in. Let's do this. You know, I would have put on good 50, 60 pounds of pure gut muscle, but you know, it would have been
Pure gamer manliness.
yes. You know, the extra chins would have been attractive to somebody. You know, it's like
Right.
or maybe not, but I
So what do
will
you?
say I was in better shape back then. So what? Yes, Glenn.
What are we doing? What have you been up to? What's going on?
Well, aside from the fact that I've gone down the Arduin trilogy rabbit hole, and I have no
Have you?
desire to come back up out of it. I'm enjoying my trip down it because, uh, and I don't know if I'm the only person guilty of this, but I'm sure we'll hear about it in the chat. I will go to myself, especially a couple of years ago. You know what? I don't have my old school gaming collection. I don't have the Arduin trilogy, and I don't have Dave Arneson's first fantasy campaign. I got a few
I
holes
got that.
in my collection, right? So now so you wait and you wait for eBay, and you take a little time where it's like, all right, I'm not going to get my wallet stolen on the next purchase. You try to wait for a decent price, and then you get it. And I will show you that with the first fantasy campaign, you take
I
it.
got that.
Yep, I got the second print. So you take it and you look through it and you go, "Oh yeah, this is something I would have probably passed up on when I was at the Complete Strategist at the time, because you know TSR stuff looks so much more professional." And yeah, all right, okay, and you take it and then you put it on a shelf and you're like, it's in my collection, and I collected it, and yay! And that's what I did with the Arduin trilogy. I have the three little books, and I have them, and got them, and kind of leafed through them, and
I've
said,
wanted
"Yeah,
I've
you
wanted to
wanted
read
to."
them. I've never had a copy. I've never been able to find a copy. I've always wanted to read them. You know, I get various reports. It's
Oh,
brilliant or it's terrible. You know,
Well,
divisive all the time.
yeah, and from my reading of it, and by the way, I took my originals out, and then I realized that at the advanced age of 54,
Mhm.
um, with never having had great eyesight, and I know a lot of you folks are going, Tenkar doesn't wear glasses. I never see him on screen wearing glasses. Um, that's because I don't wear them when I'm on screen because I can read the screen fairly well without them. But I actually have to wear the invisible bifocals because
Uh,
I need them for distance. I need them for close work. So my computer distance is about right for me not to need them. Uh, so I'm looking at the booklets the other day, and I'm like, holy shit, this print is small. I don't think I can do this. But I knew I had a copy of the PDF because uh, Emperor's Choice, they took those first three books and they relayed them out into a
mm,
more consistent. So the text hasn't changed. The order of the text may have changed, but there's a reprint of those first three books. And I was like, all right, the PDF that I can read. So and it's convenient for me to take like screenshots of little pieces and all that stuff. But I'm going through it. I'm finding the rabbit hole is I'm not, at least not yet. I haven't been looking at the game content. I've been looking at more of the essays that Dave wrote
mhm.
to get more of an insight into the mindset of somebody who wrote writing game material. And now, as I'm going through it, the deeper, it's like, hey, doesn't DCC RPG have charts like for your character rolls on a chart to get like this one little ability that makes you different than every other fighter? Well, not every other fighter. It makes you different than one out of 30 fighters are like you. It gives you a unique ability. I go, Dave was doing that with the Art of One trilogy. So this isn't something new. It's something that's been done, and I don't know if we give credit for what a lot of these things are being sourced in. Like, I mentioned this on a short episode earlier tonight. I'm going to pull this up on screen real quick, but and Glenn can go, hey, I've got that. This is from the first fantasy campaign
Hey, I've
from
got that. There you go.
Dave Arneson. So, page 75, and I'm not going to go in depth into it. It's worth its own short 10-minute episode at some point. But Dave has a page and a half, pretty much, of how characters should be getting experience points based not upon uh, accumulating treasure and gold, but how they spend it. Are you spending it
I've heard
on,
that. I've heard that before.
are you spending it on spell research? Are you spending it on song, on
Are
wine
you
or
spending
women?
it? Are you spending it? Period.
Right. And I was like, well, first off, we've seen that pop up in other OSR house rules that have been talked about. But in a
Right.
way, this is like a prelude to what they did with 2E, because 2E was like, oh, well, we're going to step away from this whole gold equals expo deal. You're going to get your expo from combat, and then fighters will get more expo from combat, and wizards will get expo from casting spells. So a second level spell is worth 200 points, and thieves will get it for using their abilities. And again, I have no fucking idea what clerics. Hold on, what cleric got it for? Bruce, Shard of Spring or Demon's Winter? You know what? I think I have them both, and they both sound very familiar. I'd have to look, but it's definitely going to be one of those two. Might be Demon's Winter. I just remember the handouts were awesome and something never done back in those days, or these days.
Mhm.
Honestly, you go out and you buy a computer RPG. You're not getting handouts in the box. You're not getting those little. You might get a tchotchke, you might get a coin, your collectible coin, or your your cloth map of EverQuest, but not getting anything that is really game related. Like, oh, when you get to this section, open up this part and look at, handout C. You don't get that. So I don't know. I really appreciate that. That's something I'm gonna be looking for. So thank you, Bruce. You've narrowed my search down. It's definitely one of those too. But so that's the rabbit hole I've been going down, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to do this. Listen, I am most certainly not the historian the of D&D or old school gaming, and that's never been my expertise. But I am a trained investigator, and I almost want to go back and look at it and go, where can I find? Okay, is this a feature that got picked up by another game 30 years later, and one of the two Daves gave us this, and I want to see if I can track that out. So uh, I don't know. Like I said, it's
It's
a
got to be
hole
in
I
somewhere.
didn't expect.
Yeah.
Demons went through the sequel, so maybe that's what. Maybe it was Shard of Spring, and that's all right. So I definitely remember Demons Winter's cover because I know I've seen it online, but Shard of Spring might be the first one, and that might be the one I was having trouble with. I will have to look. You have to excuse me.
Anyway,
I'm drinking my non-alcoholic non-beer, my hop.
we got a little bit
But
more trouble than usual with the throat tonight.
yeah, like so usually we have a game on Mondays, and Joe the lawyer's uh, Bronze Age Heartbreaker, but we had a pass this past week. He had a death in the family. His uncle on his father's side passed, I guess,
Right.
last Thursday or last Friday. So he had to, funeral, wake, all that stuff, and then spend time with the family after that. So it's just, it's a weird season because, as Glenn and I were discussing before we even jumped into this, the time frame from Thanksgiving to about New Year's, historically, from my perspective, has always been one about family, but not about gaming.
Right.
Because
Unless your family games.
right, but the obligations that you tend to have with your friends and with your fellow gamers. Thanksgiving weekend historically has always been,
Yeah.
are you going away for it? Are you shopping during it? Or you have your family over on Thanksgiving? Maybe you have other family over that Friday or Saturday. If you're trying to do two sides of the family, sometimes your weekend gets split. Then you get the
Mhm.
weekend coming up to Christmas. In the case of my family, we have between my mother, my sister, and my niece Shannon. We have uh, three birthdays spread out between December 14th and the 17th.
Ho ho
So
ho.
so it's like having another small Christmas on top of all that. And thankfully this year we're not looking at we're not looking at the I don't know, the distance gift giving for birthdays, which was exchanging gifts with my sister, my mother, and my niece in in yard chairs in the middle of December in Long Island, New York, because of COVID. So hopefully this will be a more usual season. So
Yeah. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah, it's pretty much the same with me. I mean, we're not doing Thanksgiving at the house this year, but we still have to have family. We have to go over. We're not having our Thanksgiving until Saturday with over one of my sister-in-law's houses.
and that's what
And
I'm saying. Like Thanksgiving is a weekend. It isn't just Thanksgiving is the holiday. Thanksgiving can literally be the whole weekend depending on your family obligations. And that's where
oh,
I've always seen gaming comes to a slowdown or a halt until after New Year's. I don't know. I could be
right.
wrong.
You're absolutely right. What I've been doing is I'm getting ready to do a review of this. I showed you this last night in chat, but I've been geeking out over this game here. Or it's not a game, but there it
Original
is.
edition characters by. Okay, but who's it by?
Original. It's original edition campaign by Eric
Oh,
Johansson from
cool.
Sweden. Now he
And he spelled
sells
it with
this.
a nice strong K, I do believe. Thank you, Eric.
No, yes, and he sells this on Amazon, Great UK, and Amazon because he's from Sweden, and
Right.
so I just had one of my earbuds drop out there, and he sent this to me. He reached out to me for this, and I just thought, and it's all it is his house rules, for the original OD&D three books. But I looked through it, I go, God, I could use this for anything. It's got some nice systems in here. And he says, that's all it is my house rules. It may be of value to somebody. He's getting ready to sell it on Amazon.
And that's just it, too. Like, when it comes to, somebody's house rules, any hack of D&D, any hack of a D20 system is house rules. And you don't have to take it in whole. You can take it in part.
Right.
You can Frankenstein your own system together from bits and pieces of everything else. But you play at home.
Exactly. But a lot of these systems are like, oh, this is a new clone or this is whatever, and it turns out to be like D&D with house rules. I mean, hell, that's what they called second edition when it came out. But I like in the forward, he just said, these are my house rules. Use them, don't use them, use part of them, whatever, which is nice. I've got some things in here I want to steal. I mean, he runs it a little more Hyperborea because he only has all the characters are human.
Okay.
And it's more grim and gritty because he was inspired by like the old Marvel Conan comics. And I said, so was I. But it's got one of my favorite things in here is hit points. When you advance, instead of rolling another hit die,
right,
you don't lose any hit points. But when you advance, you roll all your hit dice for whatever level. Say you're going from level 2 to level 3, you'll roll three hit dice. And he said, if you roll under your current hit dice, you only get one hit die. You only get one hit point. If you roll over your current hit points, you get the difference. I thought that is cool. I like that. Yeah. My players will probably hate it, but I like it.
But you know what? It does away with the idea of you're going to get screwed by if listen, your players always want to be like, well, I can re-roll a 1, right? I can re-roll a 2, right? I can re-roll a 3, right? Everybody wants average or better. This is going to give you average hit points over the long run.
Well, what I like, also they're getting their con bonuses anyway on top of that. So
Glenn, David Thompson wants to know what the product was. Name.
Oh, sorry. It is called again, Original Edition Campaign. Let me show it one more time. There it is.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's a very good.
It blurs. There we go. I can read it now.
There. How's that?
Original Edition Campaign by Eric with a K, some long last name.
Johansson with 2 S's.
Oh, Johansson. Eric Johansson. So there you go.
He reached out to me for this, and it's like, oh great, put it on the review pile. And then I started thumbing through, and I'm going, wow, yeah, oh yeah.
See, David Betzak uses that exact same HP method. I think I'm trying to remember if Tim Shorts was using that method, but if you rolled under or equal, you kept what you had. You didn't get that guaranteed 1, if I recall correctly, but I could be wrong.
Right. I don't mind having, and in the back they got this really nice was it Dungeon Stocking Done Fast? and it's just like you look at your map, you roll as many d6s as there are dungeon rooms in the dungeon level, and you count the number of dice that roll a 5 or a 6. This is the number of rooms occupied by creatures, and then you go on with that. Then you roll those rooms and see if there's, see if the creatures are guarding treasure, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, that's great. I got a 12-room dungeon. I'll roll 12d6. The 5s and 6s got something in them. The rest are empty or something like that. And he also makes a point that I like to make, is the fact that even if a room says empty, it's empty of game mechanics. It's not. It can have stuff in it.
Yes.
Like a dead body or a barrel or it may have nothing in it, but there's always like trash or something around there. So I like that. I like that kind of thing.
All right, so I put up a link. There's no link on Amazon US for it. At least nothing that comes up.
No, he hasn't. He says he hasn't put it up there yet. He's having a little trouble because he says he's putting this up there he's doing it at cost. I think it's going to be like $8 or something like that.
It's €7.95. I found, I guess, the original Swedish, Norwegian, whatever site. If you're in Europe, sure you can make heads or tails out of this. I'm sure the way to translate this page.
This is very frustrating. I really wish I had more information on how to get this, because it's like that. What's that one? Table Fables. It's on Amazon, and there's no PDF. I don't think there's no PDF for this either. So that's a bit of a frustration.
Like I put a link up in the chat, and hold on a second. So we got some words from him. That it's like the only English stuff on the page there, but I figured
really?
Yeah. After running an original edition campaign for about 7 years, I've decided to compile the house rules and procedures that I use during play into a booklet similar to the original 3. It's not intended to be a retro clone as much as a toolbox of ideas.
It
and
is
a source of inspiration for anyone looking to run a similar campaign. This is not in any way an authority on how to run a fantasy campaign. I want to celebrate the modularity and customization. Yeah, that's not the word that's there, but yes, customization of the original fantasy role-playing game and share my experiences and house rules. So,
see, this to me is a textbook example of house rules.
It's a modern day Arduin. That's what you're looking at. Okay, that's good. It's great. I love it.
Yes, all supplements. If you're going to put out a supplement, you should look at this versus an example, because it's very clear and precise and concise. There's no fluff or anything in there unless he's explaining for something like injury and death or rate of fire. That's all mechanics,
right?
And it even gives you an example of play in the back. I'm sure there's some things in here I'm not going to agree on, because you never agree with everybody, all house rules. But it's just a great example of what a supplement should be or what house rules should
be. And that's just it. I mean, when you look at I think I've probably spoken about this in the past, and maybe me and Glenn have, but AD&D came about because D&D was being house ruled and reinterpreted by gamers out in California on the West Coast, the Great Lakes. Every gaming region started morphing the rules into something that was theirs. And part of the issue, at least as Gary publicly said, was that you needed a common set of rules for
well, I find that I found that because, like, at first, most people who were playing it were war gamers who were used to tinkering with wargaming rules.
Well, it makes sense because I've been reading the latest release from John Peterson and
Mhm.
all about how, you know, A would modify the rules that B had written, and that makes product C. And then once you get to product D, it's a derivative of product C. It is no longer a reference to the original product A, because even
Right.
though it draws upon that, because it's moved so far along. So
Hmm.
you look at the first fantasy campaign, it's D&D, and this is, how Dave plays it. And you look at Arduin, at least the initial trilogy, and I believe it changes as the next 6 books after that go on, becomes more of its own system, but its roots are still D&D, and you can still take things and say, all right, how much is it going to hurt me to take this class and move this to a retro clone these days? Probably not much effort at all. And
Hmm.
I mean, I think that that's part of the historical charm of the older stuff, but
Yeah.
also looking at this, the original edition campaign book, and I'm looking at it and saying, this is written in the same type of
Spirit.
mind spirit and mindset as these original books, where hey, this is how I play my game. And again, take what you want from either Dave, or take what you want from Eric, not Tenkar, um, and make it your own. I think that's, again, that's what they were doing back then. And part of the fear, I believe, I haven't read far enough into John's current book, but I'm going to guess, I'm going to work on a theory here. I'll make my thesis that part of Gary's fear was that D&D was being house ruled so much, somebody, more than one somebody, and effectively they did, right? When you look at things like RuneQuest, when you look at things
Hmm.
like Tunnels and Trolls, these are all derivatives from D&D. You look at you He was like, they're going to take these my rules, and they're going to take X number of steps away from my rules and make their own rules, and then I won't be getting money. I'm not saying it was all about money, but I won't be getting, my company TSR won't be getting paid for somebody else's RPG,
Hmm.
because it happened all the time back then. Again, I write A, you write B, that builds off of A, and now you give me credit. But then when somebody builds off your work, my credit is no longer, I'm off the list. I'm no
Right.
longer getting my royalties because I'm like 2 generations back. And
Right.
I suspect that was a lot of the reason for, let's put out clearer, more concise, more complete rules. D&D White Box was pretty much house ruled as much as it was, because it wasn't really concise or complete. And AD&D was much more concise and complete, even if it wasn't
Yeah.
internally consistent.
Well,
But
also, I think Eric Johansson also, I don't know, maybe he was ESP or something, but he really hit on one of my weaknesses. I really have a weakness for toolbox type books,
oh
and
god,
because that's my kryptonite right there is toolbox type books so that you can just take stuff and do stuff with it.
I mean, that's always awesome and fun. I mean, that's, especially when you can just take little pieces. It's like,
Hmm.
I like this subsystem. I don't need anything else from this, but I like this subsystem. I want to go with it. And
Right.
it fits, and you know what? It might be because it fits the setting that you're playing with and
It
the
could.
default assumptions. And then maybe when you're running another D&D campaign with different
Uh-huh.
assumptions, those rules don't fit. And that's why two boxes are great, because you can add or subtract, pull out, pull in. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's why, in a lot of ways, D&D, and for, I guess, those of us, uh, basic expert, works so well as systems to house rules, swords and wizardry, labyrinth lord, advanced edition characters, adventure conqueror king system. Axe is effectively a house ruling of labyrinth lord, and labyrinth lord is a
Really?
reimagining / retroclone of basic expert. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know Axe was a derivative of Labyrinth Lord.
it,
That's
it it
interesting.
effectively is because it's also building off basic expert, and I don't know how far off they went from. I mean, if somebody's already done the work and it's OGL, you're going to
You can say the
refer
same
to.
thing about you can say the same thing about OSE.
Yeah, but OC actually rewrites a lot of this stuff. But I'm sure they, again, why redo work that's already been done and is already out there in the open legally? And but if I want to go for a presentation that is pure to the original, um, Labyrinth Lord has the physical look, but OSC reads a lot better. And Axe is a house rule. Axe is like, hey, we are going to do race as class, but with racial classes as opposed to just one racial class. And I think that's the strength of Axe.
Fantastic Heroes and Witchery does kind of the same thing. I mean,
Good night, Dave.
they have racial classes, but they've got so many classes, but they also have racial classes. They have a few classes that only dwarves can be. They have a few
Okay.
classes only elves can be. So they're kind of doing the same thing, only different way.
Now, which is that building off of the original box or
Fan-
Basic Expert or Beckme or
Fantastic
AOD?
Heroes of Witchery looks like a 1E, building off of 1E.
Okay. And so it's built. So whereas Osric is a
Pure 1E.
so Osric is a representation of 1E. This would
Right.
be like a house ruling of 1E, if I got you correct.
More or less. I mean, they even add like science fantasy classes in there. If they said these are optional if you want to go a John Carter-ish route,
Okay.
you know, swords and blasters type of thing.
Okay.
So, and also they do give you a choice of ascending or descending, like Swords and Wizardry does.
All right. Personally, I think the ascending descending, whereas when I first saw that, I was like, now as
Really.
I've gotten a little bit wiser and older, I think
Mhm.
that for adventures, if you're writing an adventure and you're not using ascending descending, you're hurting yourself.
You know,
Um,
and also something funny in there
what?
is I probably said this before. Fantastic Heroes of Witchery has no monster section, no monsters. They said use whatever monster manual or whatever you happen to have. And
Okay,
what's funny, and then they go on by to say we recommend Osric.
because they are probably I'd have to look at the section 15, but I would guess that they are building off of Osric, and that's not a bad thing. Osric,
No,
remember when Osric was initially written, the idea by Stuart Marshall, Matt Finch, the idea
right.
was these rules are going to be used by publishers to build adventures off of, to publish
Uh-huh.
things that are 1E compatible without
Right.
having to say they're 1E compatible, and to give a reference. And they never expected it to be popular by players and GMs to run AD&D Beyond.
If you have a reinterpreted 1E book that combines all three books and you can read it easily, yeah, of
Yeah,
course,
Isaac
yeah,
is a
of
great
course it's good.
presentation of the 1E rules. And not for nothing, When I came back, to gaming after we did the 5e D&D Next playtest, and then I became the next GM. Um, I was like, hey, we're gonna do 1E / Odric. What? Why 1E? Because 1E was the system I was most familiar with. But why Osric? Because Osric was what I wanted to refer to at my table. I didn't want to have to go through my player's handbook and my DMG and my monster manual. And no, I
I
wanted to
was
be able to say,
playing.
hey,
I was running a 1E game for my granddaughters and my grandsons, and they range from gauge 18 to down to 13, 12, 13. And the forum, I said, okay, here's my 1E books. We're going to make characters. And then I pull out my Osric book. Guess which book they use the most?
oh,
Osric, because they can
yeah.
read it.
And
Gabe would grab that every time.
you don't get, listen, I really loved the Gygaxian prose back in the day. I did. I thought it was,
Mhm.
as a 13-year-old, I was like, this is awesome. And I knew words in junior high school that made my teachers go, like, I was using words in, like, essays, and they're like, where'd you learn whatever word it was? It's like, probably verbose or some shit like that. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, probably from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Like, what? And you bring in your Dungeon Master's Guide to show the word. It's like, wow, it's used here. And you're like, oh, damn. I mean, and that's how, listen, that pushed us as kids to expand our learning, our ability to do
It did.
simple math
It did.
quickly. But it
It
also,
did.
this is reading back in the time before you could go on to Google and go to, like, dictionary online or whatever
Hmm.
online and look up words, or have the autocorrect correct it for you and make suggestions. You would read, not just fiction, but all those core RPG books, and you would read words and go, I have no idea what the fuck this means, but I am going to, and you wouldn't find it in the standard dictionary. I don't think if I looked up halberd in a standard pocket dictionary, I was going to find out what it was. But you would figure out from the usage and from the terminology surrounding it that you did understand, and then you would start
Right.
filling in blanks. And that to me is,
That's how
I mean,
kids
that,
learn.
yeah, that's you're learning because you want to know what this stuff means, because it's part of an experience that's driving you, as opposed to, well, it's book learning because it's part of your scholastic work.
Yeah.
That's all.
Make it
Scholastic work.
interesting to the kids.
Yeah,
And D&D
definitely.
make it interesting. Half the time teaching kids, you spend half your time getting them to pay attention.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so,
If you can draw them in,
yeah, exactly. That's
that that
that's that's
is
that's
sacred.
half the battle right there.
Yeah. And
You know,
honestly,
you
why
know
fight a
that.
battle you don't have to fight? I mean,
You know,
the best battle is not the one you win; it's the one that was never fought.
yeah.
I hate to say it.
And knowing is half the battle.
GI Joe is there. GI
Great,
Joe.
great American hero.
Wild Die. According to my mother, when I was 10 years old, I told her I was going to be a professional writer. Coincidentally, I was 10 when I was introduced to D&D. There you
Ha.
go. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, I was in high school and I said I was going to be an actor, and look what happened. Anyway, but
an
that's great.
actor.
The actor, yeah. Hmm.
Hey, listen,
Anyway,
I wanted to be a train engineer, and then I wanted to work for the phone company like my father.
oh,
And not,
here's one. Here's a weird one. I was either wanted to be a cartoonist or an entomologist because bugs fascinated me at the time.
did it still fascinate you, Glenn?
No, not anymore.
Yeah, that's a phase that some kids grow out of, like, oh, bugs. It's like, as they get older, it's like, yeah, somebody
Yeah.
kill that spider for me because I don't want to get
Well,
anywhere near it.
Yeah, I just thought that, they were just too gross. I mean, I couldn't get over stuff like beetles with those weird,
Oh
whatever.
yeah, the pincers at
Yeah,
the end.
the pincers or the thing with the and
The thing with the
centipedes and
thing. Yeah.
millipedes just grossed me out. You know,
We used to have. God, I haven't seen a praying mantis in my neighborhood in probably at least 10 years.
they don't
But
bother me.
but they're great when you see them eating something, and it's like you're watching it. You're like, it's like, oh, they just dropped half a large insect body, like a katydid, just went to the ground as they just chopped it in half. I was like, what a yeah, that's a
They're pretty powerful. But anyway,
holy.
I didn't do either of those or the acting or nothing. I'm a gamer.
Well, there you go.
So what are you gonna
I'm
do?
a gamer, you're a gamer, we're a gamer.
I'm a I'm a game master without a game. Um,
Well,
so
yeah, I probably won't be a game master until the new year anyway, because I was
yeah,
hoping to get something up and running before Thanksgiving, and it hasn't happened, and it's not happening during December. That's
my
just
concentration is trying to figure out whether I can afford North Texas next year right now because I do want Gage and I to go. I miss you guys. This is the only time I get to see you guys in person and all my
yeah.
other friends. And it's more than gaming for me. It's almost a family reunion.
Yeah, I've been saying this for years, but North Texas is my home away from home. I don't get me wrong. I
But
enjoy
but
going to other conventions, but North Texas
true.
just
You know,
recharges my batteries, and it's
it
like
does.
I'm home. I was like, you walk into the hotel, it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, yeah, this
I'm
is
home.
home.
You know,
You
I
know,
I see you guys and it's great. And I bring Gage now, and Gage absolutely loves it. So I can swing the badges. I'm not sure about the hotel or anything, but we'll see what happens. I usually get some kind of roommates, but I don't even know if I'm gonna have that. So maybe I'll start a GoFundMe. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not working.
go fund Glenn.
Oh, Woodard, I wish I was a professional gamer. I can't see how those guys make money. Actually, I can, but it's beyond me. Um,
Well,
I thought
you
I
have
thought
to,
about being I thought about being a professional game master at one time, and I said, no, nobody will want to play the games I want to play.
right. You got to
I
run the
see these
games that
guys.
people want to play.
Yeah, these this it's a big corporate thing now. A lot of corporations like this for their employees, and it's like you got to be up on the latest stuff, 5e or whatever the hell editions out. And I said, I don't want to do that. That's money out the door. I don't want to spend. And
Right,
I'm too
and the other
set.
part,
I don't want to learn it.
well, not only that, the other part is that you really the professional game masters that I've spoken to,
Uh huh.
and they will charge $20 a head for a 6-person table
I've
for
seen that.
3 or 4 hour time slot. God bless them. And they say for a 4 hour time slot, they're probably prepping at least 4 hours for the session. But it's
Yeah.
always in person. It's always in person. So,
Yeah.
and it's not at their apartment or anything like that. So you need either a public venue that you can use, or
Yeah.
it's got to be at a corporation location where you can use the lunch tables or whatever. But
Yeah.
you're on the hook too, because if they have less than a good time, then you're not going to be
Well,
invited
that's
back.
that's all part and parcel of running a business.
Right. So it's like, oh,
You know,
well, no TPKs this week.
that's
Can't do a
that's
TPK with this group. All right.
that's the thing. You've got to balance that out like any other business does. I even had a name I was going to call myself. I was going to call it Rent-A-Grognard.
Rent a grog. I will.
Rent-A-Grog. Yeah.
I will.
Old man
I will.
Grognard will, for the right price, Old man Grognard will run you a game in person.
In person.
Well, it's
You
just
better
local.
like it, or get walking.
Yeah,
I'm
there
trying.
you go.
I'm thinking about doing a Tim Cask
Look,
impression, but
I got
I couldn't
Yeah,
do
I
10
got
practice
you're
justice.
you're not quite Grognard. I got 10 years on you. So
Yeah, well, my hair would tell you differently, though, man. When I dyed my hair blue, all that gray became like this, like light sky, like a cloud sky blue. And even after I washed it out, it's like, hey, I've got like granny highlights. When you get the women that like in their like 90s and like they dye their hair and they always dye it like that blue gray because it's not gray, but it's not natural either. I was like, geez. So, and
When
by
I
the
was
way,
at the, when I was in theater, we'd have a lot of old people come here and say, "Oh, it's a blue hair crowd." We'd look out
yep.
there. Oh, look, yeah,
So
it's a blue haired performance.
we've got a bit of a cold wave coming into New York City. So I don't know when. Maybe right before Thanksgiving, I get to dye my hair blue. Uh,
Oh
it's
boy.
not going to be. By the way, it's not going to be the blue that you saw on screen when they were spraying my head because I am
Oh,
not. Well, the reason being is I'm going to have to rinse out the residue, the loose stuff, before going into my car because I can't leave that on the seats of my brand new 2021 Subaru Forester because
I don't blame
I
you.
will
I don't blame you.
I will be suicidal if I do that.
Yeah,
So
well, look at this. Believe it or not, there is still some hair up there to look at,
nice.
but yeah,
All right.
you see me in person, you know.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
My hair uh, instead of falling out, it just decided it would go gray. So and I think the grays all started when I started my solo parental responsibilities when my son was 13, when his mother passed. I think
You know,
all the
I'm always
grays
looking
started
for,
coming in.
speaking of gaming, I love it when I'm always looking for more gaming t-shirts, you know, RPG t-shirts.
Right.
And I love it when I get recognized. Not recognized like, hey, you're old man Grognard, but hey, you're a gamer, you know.
Yeah.
I went into a donut shop last week and I was wearing my think 2017 North Texas shirt and this
Cool.
hat. And the guy that served me, he looked about, early 20s. And after he rung me up, he says, well, what do you play? I said, well, yeah. And then I get to give him, and then I get to give him the old man Grognard lecture about how I'm an old
Anything
grog
we
and I play all these. And we had a nice, like, 20-minute conversation about, because he's new to 5e, he's new to
Oh, okay.
gaming, and so it's like, oh, my chance to educate this guy. So,
Huh.
you know, and
Anything after second edition skills and powers is shit. Sorry, no offense.
well, it wasn't that. But I encouraged him to try. He says, I'm looking at the older games because he likes Call of Cthulhu also. And we talked
Oh
about that.
yeah.
And he said, the fifth edition doesn't quite get it for me for like, well, characterization. I says, so I told him to try either Swords and Wizardry or basic. If you want to get into, I said, old school, go basic fantasy. You're not
Yeah.
going to break the bank. It's free. It's all free.
And if you
You want to
play
buy it? It's a,
5e, it doesn't
you know,
it's not so far because basic fantasy builds off of third edition. So if you play third edition or even 5e, there's some comfort zone to basic fantasy.
I never
It's
got
it,
that. Just, you know, I never got that. I never got it for the fact that people got. I got the impression that people thought just because um, it's using the third edition OGL is based on third edition. No, it's not.
no, it's
It
not, but
it goes back to basic.
it does go back to basic, but it does keep some of the concepts of three, just like Castles and Crusades does. Castles and Crusades hews
Right.
closer to the third edition than a lot of the later retro clones do. But
Excuse
they're
me,
all.
I dropped one of my earbuds.
That's why I don't wear them because Glenn, I lost my AirPods somewhere in this room. I have no idea where the fuck they are, and they're
Oh, you
and they
naughty
were
boy! I'll get it
yeah
after the show.
yeah.
I still got one. I can hear
I
it.
said that a month ago. I'll get it. Yeah, I can't get it. I don't know where the fuck it is. But
Well, I need a
the
grandkid. I need a grandkid around here. Here, bend down over and get that for Grandpa.
but like listen, all of the OSR old school retro clones are built off of the 3G OGL, with the exception of Stars Without Numbers and the other games by Kevin Crawford, because Kevin
Right.
does not use the OGL. He basically built a D20 system from the ground up, which certainly plays a lot like your classic D20 system, but with enough tweaks that he could avoid the OGL. And God bless him for doing it. You
Well,
know,
as far as I know they added like ascending armor class, and I'm okay with that. To me, anybody who says that it's like they don't understand that just using an OGL doesn't mean you're using that system.
well, again, Osric
What you
uses it.
do, you're using a license.
You are, but you're using the OGL so you can use things like spell names and a lot of the
Right.
functions and the
Right.
D20 and the saving throws.
But I'm saying
And
you're not limited to third edition. You can go
no,
back second,
oh
first,
yeah,
basic, OD, and as
right.
far
But
as
when
as
you
far back as you want to go.
right, however, when you are straying off of the third edition OGL, like things like experience point charts, if you look at them closely, they don't match the originals in these retro clones. The math is
Hmm.
always off by a couple of points. And it's off by a couple of points because that is not that is something that would be covered under, I guess, presentation as opposed to rules. So if your fighter is at 2,000, 4,000, 8,000 for your first couple of levels, you're going to see them be at like 4,120 experience points for second level or whatever. If you look, you'll see most of these systems do little things like that to keep the
Well, that's
potential warriors at
that's
bay.
interesting. That's
Yep.
interesting because I thought that's one of the things you couldn't copyright was tables
You can't, but you can copyright
because
presentation.
it's part of the mechanics,
Right,
which you cannot copyright.
but you can but I believe you can copyright the formula behind the tables. So you have to change the formula slightly. But in any case, it's little things to keep away
Hmm.
the big bad wolf. Known as Wizards of the Coast, and not that Wizards of the Coast is looking to slam anybody. I mean, when you look at some of the stunts people have done in the industry, and you realize that Wizards of the Coast sometimes all they've done is not even a cease and desist, just a kindly letter from some schmuck in the home office saying, "Please don't do this again," because the next letter might be a cease and desist, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we won't do that again." I'm not going to say what convention might have gotten a letter like that, but it's just this stuff happens.
Okay. But you start telling me something's a variant of third edition, it's like it just kind of like, unless you're talking about Castles and Crusades, I don't want to hear it.
Or Dungeon Crawl Classics. You'll agree
Or
on that one.
that.
You
Yeah.
know, they
Yeah.
they
Unfortunately, yes.
they hew a bit closer to their
Too
source
close.
material.
Too close for my taste.
Well, I mean, I would hazard a guess that after Joe Goodman tried to support the fourth edition game system license with, I think it was two issues of Level Up magazine, which got no traction. And there might be more, but I had the first two, and they weren't poorly written. Just the system for E was not one that anybody really in my groups ever got drawn to. And then he was like, "Well, if I'm not going to be able to make money off of 4E adventures, I need my own system, and let's go back to the source." And the source was a 3E OGL, and that's what it was built off of. So.
Yeah, I know. He put a lot of modules in the D20 days. Put a lot of modules out for third edition. So I
Oh my
figured, I
god!
guess let's stick with what I know, type of thing.
Yeah, and you can't blame him. Now,
I guess you
excuse me.
can, but I still don't. No, not for
No,
me.
I mean the tone of the adventures also changed when you went from the third 3.5 era Goodman Games adventures to the DCC RPG adventures. they are more of over the top, you know, sword and sorcery
They
type
are. I
story.
happen to think they're on top of the 3E stuff. I happen to think they put stuff on there that you know makes a BX game look like a walk in the park because they're very let's kill them around every corner type of thing, especially if they throw magic.
I mean,
I
I
don't
gotta
I don't
say,
remember I don't remember my old games being this deadly.
oh no, mine weren't
You
unless
know,
I was
they're
running
to me they're just pushing that envelope too much.
well, you know, here's the thing: if you ran TSR era 1E adventures that TSR published, they were
Mhm.
almost invariably tournament adventures, and
Oh yeah,
they were there to kill the PCs. They were
yeah, but
usually
I mean,
so if you wrote your own, it was always different. But the times I ran, you know, slavers or T1 to 4 didn't have that issue. T1 to 4 was fairly well balanced because it wasn't written to be a tournament adventure. But the G
mhm,
series was written to be tournament adventures. Basically, if you came with a bunch of PC and potential PCs for your party to use, they expected your party to die. So that's how I looked
yeah,
at it.
yeah, but I still think I feel safer in those than anything in DCC.
Well, I mean, the later ones, the ones for DCC RPG, I think are very well written, sometimes pretty much over the top, but I've converted them to Swords and Wizardry on the fly. They play very well, but I was probably also down in the power level a little bit by doing so. But
Yeah,
they also work best as an episodic, which, let's be honest, if you were buying adventures from TSR back in the day, they were very much episodic. They didn't you went from A1 to A2 and your characters there was no how do you get from spot to spot. All right, now you're starting off. Here's where you are. Let's go and have fun. I don't know if you hear that helicopter flying
true.
over my house.
I don't hear anything.
All right, well, thank God for that.
Thank
Pretty
God for
darn
that.
loud. So, so now,
Hey,
Glenn, how was we touched on this topic? I mean, but now you have a game coming up next week, or not?
uh, I no, I do not. My next live action, my face-to-face game is on the 29th, but I do have the Monday game online this Monday, as
Oh, okay.
far as I know. Carlos runs the online game, and I run it once a month face to face. That's the theory, anyway. But we don't have anything planned past this last game. We're just going to wait
Uh,
till the first. We'll just wait till the first of the year. You know, people will be busy.
yeah. Well, and again, that's part of it, and
I
you
don't
know,
really think that the online game is going to happen much either because people will be busy. You know, so
and you know, and I think this is something that Rach and I will probably touch upon tomorrow for Gamers Health, but
mhm.
this is also the time of the year where seasonal depression sets in. So it's probably the time of the
Oh,
year.
tell me about it. Tell
It's
me about it.
probably the time of the year where we, uh, in general, want to be gaming more to relieve stress, relieve tension, relieve depression, and
And
we're
we
going to be
don't.
gaming less because of responsibilities and time crunches that pop up this month. So
That's
it's like
what.
a perfect storm if you're a gamer.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. No, that's why I like grandkids who say, "Grandpa, can we play D&D?" When they do that. Every once in a while, the
Well,
girls will, "Grandpa, can we play some D&D?" And they always ask at the wrong time. I can't. I got to go do this for Nana or something like that. But I plan
Grandpa,
on doing it.
you're horrible, Grandpa. I don't ever
Oh,
want to play D&D with you again.
we get it once in a while. We get it
All
once in a
right,
while.
all
You
right.
know, Gage has asked me, Gavin, not Gavin. Gage has asked me to play when he was younger. So, Grandpa, can we play D&D? I'm trying to edit these podcasts. Oh, okay. So, you know how
Sure,
it
we
is.
can. Listen, I mean,
Sure, y'all. Okay. Roll for initiative. Boom. One shot. Y'all die. TPK. Let me go back to what I'm doing.
Well, I mean,
I've never done that.
I'm gonna do a Glen here. Hold on a second.
Well, good. I can get my other bud. Your friend step on it or something.
Lloyd Metcalf put out Floof Quest. It was a Kickstarter. And it includes, hey, the camera's respecting it too. That's good. So, Floof Quest can be run with Swords and Wizardry, but it also includes its own little easy to use system. And what I did was I ordered 5 copies. I gave my niece Shannon when she was over last week, and I gave her 2 copies and said, "Read this, Shannon, and if you like it, play it, and with your friends. And if they like it, you can give one of them a copy. And if they want more copies, I have more copies." So
there you go.
Over the
that
Christmas
was Lloyd.
Holidays. Yeah, Lloyd Metcalf put that together. Yep, that was Lloyd.
Surprised you didn't send me one, but that's okay.
Lloyd. Well,
that's okay.
I backed the Kickstarter.
Floof Quest. What is that? A kids D&D game or?
Yeah, it's for youngins.
Oh, okay.
You can run with Swords and Wizardry, Swords and Wizardry Light, or he has his own little Floof Quest system in there.
Right.
So, but yeah, Lloyd did a good presentation with it. So I thought it was pretty
nice.
Cool. Yeah.
I didn't expect that out of him. I didn't expect that out of him. He usually sends me everything he does, but he's okay on that respect.
I think Lloyd was trying to split his time between OSR and 5e, and I think he's
OSR won out.
Yeah, I think he put the nail in 5e because here's the thing, and I probably haven't discussed this on this channel, but I know for a fact, and I've been told this, that if I covered 5e and talked about 5e stuff, I could probably double our subscriber numbers within 6 months, if not less, and hit 2,000. But I'd be talking about stuff that I'm not excited about, and I'm not intimate with, and I'm not comfortable with. So I talk about what I am passionate about, which happens to be old school gaming.
That's right.
And I think that carries over. And I could do a more popular but shitty podcast, or I could do a less popular but higher quality podcast. I'd rather go with the higher quality, personally.
So did you ever do that high quality podcast?
No, I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Remember, quality is all a matter of perspective. If my 5e would be like down here, and here's where I'm at, this is higher quality. But maybe this is technically high quality. I'm not there yet. We're working. Okay. But if folks, if you're watching this, you haven't subscribed yet, thumbs up, hit the like button. Apparently, you can hit
all that stuff.
You can hit the dislike button, but it doesn't have much of an effect anymore because they don't. They feel that the creators just can't. We can't handle the criticism, but we still get to see it. But we can't handle the criticism being in public. So,
well, as you know, Radio Grognard operates on quantity, not quality. So,
you could throw in how to OSRify the 5es. I could actually talk about that with Joe, since Joe runs 5e, but from what I heard from his brother, it's 5e that doesn't really resemble 5e much anymore. It's like a 5e chassis with an OSR body taped on top of it. So it would be interesting to go into the.
You're talking about MacArthur then? Okay.
Yeah, well, no, because MacArthur actually
was still 5e.
It's still 5e, but it distills 5e down to its essence, and then rebuilds it into what it wants to be. Whereas Joe takes 5e and he doesn't bring it down to its essence. He takes out the wrench and the hammer and the screwdriver and knocks shit off it, and then pounds in some OSR stuff, and it's like a Frankenstein. So I don't think it's quite the detailed transmorphing.
MacArthur. I think that's why Matt liked Hyperborea so much, because it reminded him of MacArthur. Because Jeff did the same thing with 1E. He broke it down and he built it back up into something different.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. If there was some way I could get this supplement into Joe the lawyer's hands, he'd probably like it.
He probably would. And I'm about to sneeze. Oh my god. Nothing worse than a
You're
sneeze
okay.
that doesn't happen. Because it just
True.
I'm making faces. Not gonna want to make faces because all right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Probably best I didn't sneeze. I had a bloody nose earlier today. I probably would have been a
Really?
mess if I had sneezed. You'd be like going, "Oh my god, Tenkar, cover your face." So
You son of a gun.
I couldn't
Anyway.
help myself, Glenn. I couldn't help
That's
myself.
the state. That's the state of gaming where I am. I don't know what the state of Kickstarters are, but I think
Um, Kickstarter wise, Doug Cole has a new Kickstarter out for Dungeon Fantasy. Looks really good. I'm backing it because I plan on using the monsters and they're going to be GURPS powered, but I can convert that to Swords and Wizardry or OSR with a
yeah.
blink of an eye. GURPS is easy to convert from. It's just once you understand the system. So I've backed that. James Shields has 3D printable
Really.
creatures Kickstarter just kicked off. So you guys can check into that. I'll be posting about that probably in a day or two. And oh my god, I know I'm missing another one. God knows, this. Here's
Well,
I. I'm getting old, Glenn. I'm getting old. I can't
I don't
remember.
know that one.
Yeah, you all right? You're being nice. You're being kind. You're being way too kind. So should we wrap it, Glenn?
Yeah, I think we should look for my GoFundMe. Send a grog to North Texas.
You know what? You're half joking
I'm
about it, but
I'm,
you probably
I'm joking about it.
you're not. Well,
I don't know. It just
no.
this doesn't seem to be worthy of something like a GoFundMe. I'm not.
Yeah. You got to promise to run like a game a day. Then it's worthy of a GoFundMe.
I could do that. I could do that. I'm already
There you
getting my
go.
Gangbusters game ready because
Ah, you
Dead
see, so
Game
you want
Dead Game Society's coming this next year.
so you see, it's kind of like stretch goals, like in a Kickstarter. You got to be like, hey, if we raise 250, I will run Gangbusters on Thursday, and if we raise 450, I'll do whatever. I mean, hey, at 750, I was gonna do this anyway, but Tenkar will spend Saturday in his wrestler outfit from the yoga experience a couple of weeks back, and
And for 400, he'll take you to the bar and buy you a drink.
well, but we're gonna. But the game plan is I will what you call it. Uh, I will wear and show off the outfit so we can auction it off at the midnight auction. And I'm not
There you
saying
go.
I will take it off at the midnight auction because I don't think that the place is rated for that
I
kind of
could
a.
get into trouble with this at home here, but I was going to say for like 350 for like
No,
a
no,
hundred
no, no.
bucks. No, $100. Gage will run a game. Oh, he'd love that.
Oh, you
Grandpa,
know,
I don't want to run any
$100.
games.
And how much do I make with that $100?
Yeah, there you get to
What?
go to the con then. That's what you get.
Uh,
You get to stay in the hotel. That's what you get.
there you go. Well,
You know,
folks, listen, we're
there
still
you
in the
go.
midst of the world of COVID. I am not telling you what to do. Neither is Glenn.
That's
Use
right.
your common sense. Use your common sense. Take actions. Talk to a medical professional that you trust. You know your medical history better than anybody else. Be guided by the advice of somebody that's in the field who you have confidence in to make the right decisions. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Be safe. Be well. God bless. Roll those dice. I'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern with Gamers Health with myself and Rach. We're going to be talking a little bit, like I said, about seasonal depression because it hits the gaming industry, it hits it fairly hard, and
Okay.
probably a few other things. All right, folks.
And don't forget to listen to Radio Grognard
Radio Grognard.
uh, on Anchor or Spotify or wherever you want to listen it to, and his stuff too.
Wherever your favorite
Ta-
podcast can be found.
Tavern Chat too. And
Tavern Chat, yes. And if you're looking for an Anchor, I'm sorry, hasn't been put up in probably close to 2 months because Anchor's been having trouble converting the video files over. And but now they're saying that Anchor can play video, so I gotta give that a try. So let's see if I can do that this weekend.
okay.
All right, folks.
Good night, folks. See you, folks.
Later.
Bye.